IELTS. Why is it that most people don't do well in their IELTS exams? I feel that most people don't do well in their IELTS exam because they are anxious. And how can you work on your anxiety? You definitely have to prepare for a certain test. And most people, especially in the recent past, UK needed nurses, and most people are not able to really do very well, especially in some African countries. We have Kenya, which had around, I think, 10 out of 300 nurses, are the only ones who passed IELTS. So what do you need to know when you're going to sit for your IELTS exam? Definitely preparedness. We say opportunity meets preparedness. So we have IELTS General and we have IELTS Academics. You definitely would want to sit for IELTS Academics if you're going for professional services, if you're going to university in the States, or in the UK or Canada. So you definitely have to prepare for IELTS Academics. IELTS General is basically for migration purposes. You probably maybe have gone for work, or maybe just to be maybe a caregiver or a nanny, So you need to definitely know which IELTS you're going to be sitting for. IELTS refers to the International English Language Testing System. That definitely has to stick, because you have to be prepared for, the 4 language skills. We have listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Yeah. And think about it. A baby first learns to listen, then they learn to speak, and then they can now learn to read and be able to now write. Listening and reading are receptive skills because you're receiving information, while the speaking and writing are productive skills because you definitely have to produce what you listened to and what you read. So thinking about it, you need to be prepared for these 4 language skills for you to pass your IELTS. Listening takes approximately 30 minutes. For the speaking test takes 11 to 14 minutes. The reading takes 60 minutes, which is 1 hour, and the writing also takes 60 minutes. So if you were not prepared for the IELTS exam, if you probably maybe didn't have a tutor taking you through, or you didn't watch videos on the same, you definitely will be very shocked when you go and sit for that test, knowing very well that it's not just one test, but 4 exams, 4 English tests, testing the 4 language skills. So just to think about it, when you're doing your speaking, because you definitely will be involved in a conversation with the examiner, you need to have prepared for that, getting to know the kind of topics they will cover. You definitely need to be confident. I feel when you maintain a certain upright posture, you're able to, express yourself better, because that helps you with your confidence and all. I also feel that you need to also be able to use fillers, because your speech has to be very, very natural, So listening, speaking, reading, writing, but again, also be prepared for the kind of exam questions that you're going to find. We have different task types. We have multiple choice questions. We have graphs. We also have charts. We also have tables that you're going to match and diagrams. So if you are not prepared for those kind of task types, then you will just be very much shocked when you go and sit for this test, and you're like, oh, I didn't expect this, and that's how people freak out. So also be prepared for the different task types that you might encounter when you're doing your IELTS exam. In addition to this, you also want to try and use your rule of 3 as you express yourself. Rule of 3 or triplets has to do with 3 very strong phrases or strong adjectives. The more reason why you need to be prepared with your parts of speech. If you want to think about drugs, you might want to say they are dangerous, destructive, and demeaning. How many? 3 very strong adjectives, and definitely one would not want to use drugs when they hear you using those 3 adjectives. Say demeaning, destructive, dangerous. So 3 very strong phrases or adjectives as you speak, as you also write. Try to ensure that you're able to at least use your rule of 3. And if you realize, in my kind of an example, the example that I've given, we have alliteration used there. The d sound used there. If you're able to have that, the better. But if you can't do it, it's still okay. It can be any 3 adjectives or 3 phrases that are very, very strong and definitely relevant to the topic that you're covering. So yeah, speaking is definitely one of the language skills that you have to be very, very well prepared for. Otherwise, when you freak out, you won't be able to express yourself in your speech, and that will definitely work against you. We have the listening test, and definitely here you have to be very, very keen, because listening has to do with time management and about you being very, very keen. Because if you're not keen, then you'll definitely not be able to produce the answers that you're required to produce. Listening is different from hearing, because if you're just hearing someone speak, you're not really taking that into account. It's not as important, But listening, we say listening is active and hearing is passive. Yeah, hearing is passive, listening is active. That means when you're listening, you're definitely paying attention. You probably want to take your notes and all that, and that requires you to definitely have prepared for that. That means you need to have done a couple of listening tests before you actually sit for the actual listening exam at the British Council. We also have the reading, and the writing. Definitely now here, whether you did the local system or the international system, we all have to be able to, tackle passages, be able to express ourselves in writing. And that means the most important thing for you to do for IELTS is for you to be ready with your 9 parts of speech, the 9 parts of speech in English. I know it sounds cliche, but definitely that's what you did in high school. The nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, pronouns, prepositions, conjunctions, because you need to be able to use them and pick them out in a certain piece of writing, or passage, yeah? So the 9 parts of speech. And again, you also need to be prepared for, or be ready with your figures of speech. Figures of speech has to do with, or have to do with similes, metaphors, alliteration and stuff like that, personification. If you definitely don't do that or prepare for that, you can imagine someone else has done a very, very good piece of writing and you've just done a writing, And the best band, we all know that the best band for IELTS is a 9. So there is no way someone who has prepared for IELTS will get lower mark than someone who's not prepared for IELTS. Yeah, so the best band is a 9. Most students are able to at least be admitted to uni or be able to travel when they have a certain 7.5 out of the 9 band score. So again, very important for us to prepare for this test, 9 parts of speech, the figures of speech. If you don't do that, definitely, and again, practice. We say practice makes perfect. So if you don't practice, it's going to be very difficult for you and you're going to be very frustrated. Having done this for the past 6 years, I've definitely encountered students who are already they're probably giving up and they're like, oh, I've done this once, twice, 3 times and I'm not getting it. What kind of English is this? And whenever they're going to sit for the exam, they're definitely very, very much anxious, and that works against them because they will not be able to finish their work in time, or they will just be self-correcting and thinking, okay, am I doing the right thing? Am I not doing the right thing? So the most important thing for you to do, again, for IELTS, I am insisting, is for you to prepare. So basically, I think that's it for your IELTS test. As we carry on, we're definitely going to be trying to see or break this down into, speaking, and maybe the other day we can actually tackle the listening, then we can tackle the reading, we can also tackle the writing. So very important for us to prepare for this, and I definitely want to wish all of you the very, very best as you sit for your IELTS exam.